Julie, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. I'm so excited just to have the opportunity to connect with you as a human being and as a woman and have a conversation. I would love for you to start out. Who is Julie? And kind of, can you
Ah,
answer that elevator pitch question a little bit? I mean, I know there's so much. So how would you sum it up?
oh, wow, what a beautiful question for you to
Yeah.
ask me on the 4th of January, the beginning of 2023. This is like what a beautiful, beautiful question. Thank you so much for asking that.
Yeah.
Okay, so who is Julie? Julie is an aspect of a multidimensional life form that
Mm.
spans space and time. And even in the Julie incarnation, I'm a woman of many names. It's actually kind of hilarious because when my fourth child was born, I took a spiritual name. I was actually given the name, wasn't expecting it, and I was given this beautiful spiritual name of a Vedic lineage, and it's called Ma Ananda SriMati. And this
Oh, that is
means
beautiful.
blissful, beautiful, and fortunate. So
Mm.
it's a really it's a quite a blessing of a name, like quite
Yes.
extraordinary of a name. And we were talking before we started the recording going about, because I said Moira, and you were like, "Thank God you said my name correctly." And I was sharing that it's this frequency thing because I never even dared to try to use Ma Ananda Srimati because that just would have been like a disaster
Yes.
in modern culture. But I did shorten it to Srimati, and even Srimati people can't say. So they're always, it's a
Wow.
frequency. But what I would say is during this time, I tried to write this blog post talking about what is in a name, what is the
Mm.
power of a name, and what is entailed in a name. And I was speaking of the Native American traditions where when they go through initiations and rites of passages, they take on new names.
Hmm.
Because really, in this human life, I'm not saying only I am a multidimensional being. What I am sort of fostering and holding space for in my mentorship community, Water Tiger, is for us to start to expand our idea of what it means to be an identity.
Yes.
And back in the day, or at least I grew up in the time in this culture where people were always very suspicious of me because I do many things. So they would be like,
Mm.
well, how can you be an artist and a mother and a contractor and an author and a singer? Immediately they just shut down and they think you're irrelevant because you couldn't be a worthy in any of those experiences. But I'm sure many people that are listening to this conversation right now, you have something that you came into this life knowing how to do. Like
Yes.
for me, it's sculpture. Like I know how
Wow.
to sculpt. I was a sculptor very clearly. And I have not chosen to do it in this lifetime yet because I already did that. But the times that I picked up the clay, I had very revered artists noticing what I was doing. And,
Wow.
and in a way, I could have like created a big career around that. I mean, Anthony Minghella, the director of English Patient, um, he saw some of my pieces in Rich's then office and just couldn't stop talking about them. And
Wow.
he's one of the most revered artists. I mean, just genius, genius. And he transitioned and left his body some years later. I mean, some years ago. But what I'm sharing this for is that we all have talents, abilities, awarenesses that we are continuing from previous life experience.
Mm.
So for me, Julie, it wasn't even until really recently that I was even able to say the name Julie. Like it would have been like Julie. Like it just didn't. I was like those people that can't say Srimati. I'd be
Yeah.
like Julie, and then people would say Jewy, and I'd say no, Julie. Like, but now I'm more integrated. Like I really can say that name, and I think these are all fractals and aspects of ourselves that we're integrating into the one.
Mm.
So Julie is a multifaceted, I'd say, crystal. And for purposes of teaching, I use a 12 identity model. Like we have
Mm.
12 aspects of ourselves that we're integrating into the 13th, which is unity. And that is what is going on right now. So, as a little sort of homework for anybody listening, if this sort of inspires you or excites your fire inside, is I would um, I just realized why my mic is not working, and it
Do
was
you have the end of the cord right there?
it's not connected into the Scarlett. You think this sounds okay then? We just leave it the
Yes,
way
I
it is.
think we
I don't
just
think I'm
roll with
speaking
it.
into this mic at all. Okay, great. Sorry,
Yeah.
you will have to edit that out.
No, I kind of love it. I kind of love real life.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So basically, you could just do it. Like I would encourage you to allow yourself to dream and to sit down and imagine if you were 12 aspects of life, what are those colors? What are those identities? What are those species? And are they all existing here on planet Earth, or are they in other star systems? Like, have you always been drawn to, let's say, Pluto, or like I'm not, that's just an example. But like, really start to think of yourself. What if you were more than this identity with this name, with this career, with this family? What if you were more than that? And could you allow yourself to imagine and dream and allow yourself to be more than you ever dreamed that you were? So that's a very big answer to who is Julie. But Julie is, for me right now, my little child who was a human in this incarnation. And one of my recent sort of rituals that I do is I found a very beautiful picture of her when she was 6 years old. And she's in a wedding party and she's in the front and she's so cute, like so adorable, pure, really dark brown hair. And my dress is way shorter than anyone else's because I obviously demanded that my mother make it really short. So that would be something that would be, yes, me, always into fashion. But I keep this picture with me and I sit with her at tea every day. And one of the things that I really support the people that work with me in Water Tiger is to start to fall in love with yourself at a level where that child, that 6-year-old, or maybe it's 4, or maybe she's 8, or maybe he's, 3. If you can really start to live your life as the guardian protector of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
It's powerful. And because, especially as mothers, I mean, we've had multiple children and, you guys, all the women listening to this, we've had these experiences where the food is on the way to your mouth and it gets snatched out and someone else is eating the food.
Yes.
And we just keep going because we're mothers. Yeah. It's like, yes, you eat it. So I really think this is the key to unlocking some greatness, some immense beauty that we are on the precipice of embodying, is really falling in love with ourselves and taking care of ourselves at that level.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so interesting think about the spectrum of that, of how the large majority of society, especially women, kind of treat themselves, speak to themselves, that inner dialogue, that harsh judgment. And it is the opposite end of the spectrum of how we would ever treat our small children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Crazy. And if I can go in, because I think it's important that we understand the spiritual histories of this planet so that we understand the game we're in or the realm that we're in. So I often talk about what's behind me too. So, as any woman who's been alive with a vagina on planet Earth,
I love it.
We've been preyed upon, suffered sexual abuse, or even if not abuse, then inappropriate, at instances where we had to sort of dance our way out of it, or we were taught to be, the idea of feminine on this planet is, oh, you should be sweet and you should be reflective. Right. You should be a reflection of the sun because we're going to tie you to a lunar planetary body that has none of its own light. So I'll get back to that in a minute. But
that just rocked my world there for a second.
It is. So let's stay on that. So, so people stay with me. I'm going to say something that's going to be very alarming to many of you. So let me just give you this background. I'd like to propose the reality that the moon is not the planetary body that we think it is. and that this is a planet that has been under control and suppression for eons of time. And if that sounds outrageous that I would say such a thing, just simply read your news feed after you finish listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
How is it that we are letting our humanity starve? How is, when we have enough food to feed everyone,
Yes.
but yet we can't figure that out?
Right.
And why is there always this war? I would say it's a continuing movie.
Yeah.
And there is no us and them. There was only one. There was only one. So it's not the good guys or the bad guys, or who's right, or whatever these agendas that are sort of launched in the public arena. But it's clear that we are not living a humane, divinely connected life, I would say, as a collective.
I was just going to say, Julie, don't you think that comes from the detachment of our spiritual selves? I mean, when we are these ego-driven human beings, we completely detach from the real reality, right? Mm-hmm. And we're living in a reality that we have created for ourselves. And to me, so often, even as a child, because my mom kind of fostered this in me, I just couldn't understand the division of different countries and different cultures. And, a human being is a human being. A human being is a spiritual being. So it's hard for me to even wrap my human mind around us being against one another.
Yes. Yes. So much in what you just said. So just while I can grab that aspect of it. So everything that we interact with in this planetary realm has been reversed and infiltrated for the suppression of humanity. So one thing that is interesting about Water Tiger is I have such a large amount of people that were raised in fundamentalist religious environments, or cults, quite frankly, because Water Tiger is a way to know way that allows you to reconnect with the truth of who you are. So what I would say is that the religions, okay, so let's just go back thousands of years ago. The true feminine frequency of what it means to be an embodied divine angelic human being, which has both feminine and masculine, was literally eradicated, erased, and ripped out of the fabric of our planetary realm. So you remember back then, if you healed someone with plants, you were burned at the stake. There was genocide, there was annihilation. Like, this was a very dark agenda, dark agenda. And then who started controlling the spiritual narrative of our planet? Patriarchal controlling isms, dogmas that promoted sin, separation, it is unworthiness, the fact that if you're spiritual, you should martyr yourself, right? Yeah. So this is underneath the inability that we don't have the ability to love ourselves, because we have this program in the back that says you should never honor yourself first. That would be selfish. Or you should, even as a woman, be the peacekeeper. You should always be pleasant. We don't want you to, be intense. No. Like, you just be sweet and pretty. And then when you're older and you don't have the youth, we're going to define that beauty as being over, and we're going to cast you out of the importance of the culture. And then the man is going to go pick another, young woman and cultivate that. And so we all live with that fear of that annihilation coming. So we remember the martyrdom. We remember being ripped out of the culture. I mean, even if you look today, all the famous chefs are men. Like, how is that?
Right.
Who's keeping the eternal flame in the home? The mother, the frequency, the feminine frequency. How is it even possible on paper that the best chefs would be men? How is that true?
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. That's crazy to think about. Absolutely.
And you know, of course, I'm going to say again, I love men. I'm not saying that now. You know, I make a joke that like after Me Too, it was like, okay, now let's cut off all the penises. Like that's the, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like as a collective, we're so looking for this consensus.
yeah.
And that's not the answer, you know, and trust me, like I was preyed upon quite brutally in some very dark ways, as I'm sure, you know, many of us have been. And I'm glad. I mean, it was nice to see it finally come up for
Mhm.
reclamation. And now we get to activate the true essence of what it means to be a divine angelic human, which is both masculine and feminine energies fully present, because it's both that allows the greatest expansion, the
Yeah.
greatest evolution.
Can we dig into that? Because I'll just be totally transparent. I feel like in my marriage, which is amazing, and he is the most amazing human, I can show up very masculine. You know, I'm of that generation that, you know, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make it all happen. I'm going to be the best mom and I'm going to build a big business and I'm going to do it all. And my mom was, you know, a German Navy nurse, and she was really the first generation to be able to go out there and have the true freedom to be able to do those types of things. And so, of course, she raised us as she raised us. And, you know, I see the imbalance in a relationship that can come up when more masculine comes out. And then, you know, you tip the scales because then the men go more feminine usually. So what does it mean? You kind of touched on it in the beginning, like the true tapping into your true feminine power. How would you define that? What does that look like? Because we are in a world that still seems to think that tapping into your feminine means to be passive, to be submissive, to be soft. And for people like me, that's really hard.
Exactly. Well, and thank you for you know stepping up to experience all of that, because I think we're rewriting this imprint together.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think part of it is just what I just shared. Like maybe that's a narrative that many people never even thought about. Like you know, you're just wondering. And the other thing that I want to put forth is we are in the situation that we're in, not because we're um, you know, evil, you know, unintelligent beings. We're in this scenario by design.
Mm.
The planetary field and the energetic locks have been sealed on this realm. We've been slugging it out here to try to create something of beauty. And these ideas are pulsed into the culture. They're in everything. They're in the movie narrative,
Yeah.
they're in the Disney films. I mean, let's just start there. Like, you know,
Yeah.
now they've started to sort of change them a little bit. So the ultimate key to this, Moira, is claiming your sovereignty. It is
Mm.
about sovereign embodiment. And what does sovereign embodiment mean? It means being fully present in all aspects of your life print, I call it. So not only in your physical body, so there's a lot of physicality that goes into the yoga and presence. And as we're talking, can everyone just shift their awareness to the spine? Can you feel your spine as I'm talking to you? So as you learn to embody your physical body, then you move out to the fact that we are light color energy beings. We have not just a physical body, but we have sort of sheaths, or you could say dimensional stations that are light fields. And so with your imagination and your visualization, you can activate these things within you and start to consider yourself as a light being.
Yeah.
Now, I was really, so getting back to sort of the relationship issue. So up until this point, and I'm going to say like 1 year ago, we were in a game, I'd say a field that was about polarity integration. And so I bet most of the illumined women, or the ones of us that have that calling or that sort of ache to find that merging with God, whatever
Yeah.
you call God, we are likely in a relationship with the other. We are in the relationship that is in a slumber, and we are pulling. And it doesn't even have to be like an ego trip. It's simply physiology. So
Right.
you're vibrating up, right? And now I would say we are standing fully in the first stages of a new eon.
Wow.
And this eon, and that eon, let me go back because this might be helpful to you in your business and in the masculine aspect. So in the previous life, I'm going to call it first life, the way that we manifest was through very masculine, a masculine format. So you have goals. You're going to go out, you're going to get your piece of the pie. You're going to step, you're not going to try, maybe you're not going to try to step on some people, but it doesn't really matter because it's kind of like everybody's getting their piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very linear, in a way of step one, step two,
Mm-hmm.
step three, and then it's kind of like that, right? And it's also, there's a constriction to it. So when I'm
Yeah.
talking, if you're sensitive, you can feel it's like a clenching, a
Mm-hmm.
grabbing, a grasping. So in this new vibration, it is a magnetic, we are in a being paradigm. And I don't even use the word manifestation in my spiritual mentorship. I find this manifestation grasping to be a very kindergarten focus.
Right.
Because
There's so
many
many
of us,
ideas around it, so many preconceived notions and thoughts around that people are attached to, really, and what they think
well,
manifestation is.
and also it's kind of a bargain. You're like, I'm going to be spiritual so I can get everything that I
Right.
want. And it,
Yes,
and
totally.
it, in fact, is not that, actually. It's, in fact,
Yeah.
quite the opposite and
Yeah.
can be extremely challenging when you step into, really being a warrior. And I would say also a lover of your own destiny, of what you
Mm.
want to experience and evolve. So now when I talk in Water Tiger is about alignment is the new manifestation. So it's
Oh,
about knowing yourself so well, so precisely that you continue to learn to sit inside of yourself, fully present, fully embodied. Of course, increasing that awareness of the embodiment of those
mhm.
light fields that you can
Yes.
see. And you're going to put your energy, your presence, your divine gaze in every aspect of your light field and physical body. And
Hmm.
we have a saying that if you don't embody your life form, both physical and light, something or someone else will,
Wow.
because we are in a parasitic vampiric play.
Mm.
So, what I'm saying is fully ignite your presence, develop the tools, the awareness, the will, the heart, the courage to fully embody all aspects of who you are. And then that creates a magnetism. It's a magnetic frequency that will draw to you the things that are in alignment with you. And
Yes.
this is from a deep seated beingness, relaxation, connection to the breath, and presence. Presence being, we are like the acupuncture points of the divine mission. We are the
Mm.
ground crew of the divine mission,
Yeah.
and nothing is accomplished without us. So we're not less than another life force that has consciousness when it times travels or whatever. We're part of that whole sort of scenario. So now I'm going to get back to the relationships. So I taught a workshop on sacred sexuality. Maybe it's been 2 years at Boone in North Carolina at the Art of Living.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I didn't really want to teach this. I was like, someone who's dealing with sex, teach this, and then nobody taught it. So I was like, okay, I'll start to embark on it. And it was it's really a spiritual mission of self recovery,
Yeah. I can
because
imagine.
you can't really step into that until you're fully embodied. And so,
Yeah.
but what I did want to propose is that sexuality is a trinity of forces. It's with creativity, spirituality, and sexuality.
I love that. I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
Creativity, spirituality, and
And sexuality.
sexuality.
So
Love
it's
that.
the same. It's the same frequency. It's a trinity of forces.
Mm.
And and what we have forgotten is that our sexual energy is the most powerful energy we have available to us in a physical body. And yet the level that we are collectively interacting with it is baz, like so dark. Most of it infiltrated with pornography,
Yeah.
bestiality, violence, and then that's cloaked in well, I'm a free person. I'm a modern woman, and I can, I
Right.
can do whatever I want. And the amount of plastic devices,
Hmm.
and it's just like I always imagine, like if our greater beings just sort of, phased into our room and
Yeah.
watched us having sex, they would be like,
Appalled. Yeah.
really? Like, really, people? Like, come on, you guys. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And
Totally.
again, it's not because we're, I love humanity. We are intelligent, we are resilient, we are in the middle of the beginning of a renaissance that is going to be unprecedented.
Mm.
This is the greatest time on planet Earth. It is being viewed from other worlds. Beings are clamoring to get into a body to be part of what we're going to co-create here. And this is why you took a body, for this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful time, and extremely intense. We're being
Yeah.
faced with all of, all that we have the opportunity to reclaim, to re-encrypt. And many of us have lost, close relationships, either from death, transition, separation, divorce. Okay, good. Yeah, there's a rainstorm here right
Oh,
now,
that's so
so I think
funny. It's
that might be
raining
what's.
here. Aren't you? You're in California, right?
Yeah, uh-huh. Where are
And it
you?
never rains there. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it never rains in California. I'm in South Carolina in Charleston, and it just started to rain here. That's kind of interesting. I was like,
Oh,
where did this rain come
boy,
from?
raining a lot. So can you still hear me, or is
Yep,
that
I can hear you well
okay? So
now.
just,
Yes.
yeah, interrupt if you can't. So let's
Okay.
see, what was I saying?
Well, I want to go back to this. You were just talking about this renaissance and how amazing it is to be, in this world now, and the reason why we came forth now. Do you feel that this renaissance is like our lifetime, or do you think it goes beyond that?
Oh, really good question. Yeah, I think it's our lifetime and beyond. So
Yeah.
I'm a spiritual initiate of a community in Italy called Dom and Her.
Mm.
And Dom and Her is a community that was founded over 47 years ago, and they built temples to mankind inside a mountain in secret. And these temples, make sure that you find the tour of the temple online and link it, because it's an extraordinary experience. And this was a community that was created by the founder. It was a man named Falco Tarasaco. And they take the name of an animal and the name of a plant in this community. But he described himself as a being with memory.
Mm.
And the difference between him and most other people that are alive on the planet is that we've been mind wiped. So we didn't have the ability to retain our memory to understand who we are. And so these temples to humankind are literally, they're like 8,000 square meters, and they are
Wow.
temples of devotion, of activation, of creating a new timeline in this realm, because
Mm.
there is a timeline that is not that good, and I'm
I
I'm
believe
being
it.
I'm being kind.
Yes.
Uh, so it's very important. Time is of the essence.
Yeah.
You must understand that everything matters. But from their perspective, from our perspective, the total reclamation of the realm and the planet is a 600-year mission.
Okay.
So from our perspective, we were incarnated in Atlantis together,
Hmm.
and before the fall, and we made the arrangements to meet again in this time
Mm.
space, to
Love that.
continue our work and to create a new timeline.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that so much. Can we go into, the practices? You touched on it when you said, the embodiment of your physicality and your light and breath work and meditation and just being in the stillness of the wholeness of who you are. But, takeaways or things that people can kind of do to tap more into that. What do you teach? What do you suggest?
Yeah. Well, I guess the beginning is just the understanding that you are a divine emanation of the one breath that is breathing all life. And so whatever you have to do to clear your trauma,
Mm, true.
or the ideas or beliefs that you have maybe adopted by force or by circumstance, and start to really feel the equanimity of that. You know, the sun is shining on all creation without cessation.
Mm,
It's not saying, oh, well, Moira has prettier blonde hair than Julie has, or, you know, Moira was, you know, nicer when she was 8. You know, like it
right.
doesn't care. It literally doesn't care. It doesn't even
Yeah.
care if you're spiritual. It literally, you know, being spiritual is a choice of exploration. But again,
Right.
that sun is just shining on all creation. So when you can step into this truth, you can rescind from the human condition of
Hmm.
wanting to create separation, competition, or judgment on other life forms.
Yeah.
You know, people with different political parties, you know, people with different ideas about their medical sovereignty. At the end of the day, the choice is yours and yours alone, and you
Yes.
are responsible for it on all levels.
Yeah.
So if you're taking anything or you're subscribing to something, you are giving your consent, even if you're being passive in that.
Yes. Yes.
And so some of the original, you know, the initial techniques in my awareness would be starting to eat more plants as a
Hmm.
very base step. And again, I'm not saying that in some circumstances someone might need some meat, but what I am saying is that let it be done with awareness to the
Yeah.
consequences and to really the vibration in your body. Like, is it
Yeah.
what you really need, or do you have like a cultural
Yeah.
uh, condition? So that's the first thing. The second thing would be find a yoga practice immediately.
Mm.
Literally
Yes.
immediately. There is no
Yes.
one on the planet that should not have the yogic practices as tools in their toolkit.
Yeah.
Because when something really gigantic happens, it is the only thing that will hold you through it. It
Mm.
might save, I mean, it saves your life over and over and over again.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
what I'm saying with this, though, is don't get all caught up in the dogma and the story
Yeah.
and Hinduism. And I mean, you can. It's a beautiful sort of journey, but don't get all mental about it in the books and then make it a violence against yourself,
Right. Right.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for
So
sure.
the truth of a yogi presence is being spontaneous in the moment
Mm.
and fully embodied a beingness in the moment. And there are really no rules. There's no commandments because a being that is integrated in the truth of who they are will act in right alignment
Yes.
spontaneously,
Yeah.
right? So, and the asana series that the Western, you know, that we've named it this and that, and this 100 hours and those 100 hours, you know, those are just bullshit. It's like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
you,
like religion, right? Religion is man-made spirituality. The type of yoga you're talking about is very ego-driven,
yeah.
human being made yoga. Yeah.
And I mean, great benefits to that, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, if you want that to be a stop on your journey, highly impactful. It
Right.
like could change. It can give you the tools, but just don't be in the illusion that that's it, because
Mhm.
it's not. And
Right.
really, asana is to keep your body supple and flexible and healthy, so that you can sit for meditation. So
Yeah.
asana is not a substitute for meditation.
I love
But it
that.
is really, really good. And then, and the breath work, but again, from the yogi systems, you know, it's like what I'm missing from my view, and I don't know because I don't go to these breathing practices, but you know, there's a huge trend and everyone's breathing, which is great. Uh, but without devotion,
Yeah.
without the connection to the reverence of life,
Yes.
it can just become an ego trip that causes a lot of havoc. And we may see that displayed in the documentary Old Country, Wild Wild Country, about Osho's life,
Ooh.
which is phenomenal and really a wonderful demonstrate or depiction, I would say, of the person that he left to run his company says that she is not a meditator. Like that right there turned the whole thing around. And
Wow.
also, lack of that film is that they did not present the power of Osho's teachings, which are
Wow.
immense,
Yeah.
immense, immense, immense. But it was funny because when I would read Osho and I was totally vibrationally in alignment, except for about 8% of the time. Then I would read, I would be like, whoa, like that's not right. And then when I learned the story, it's because this other thing had come in.
Come in,
Uh,
infiltrated it.
yeah, and there's actually a really genius video about that Osho talks about the sort of the multidimensionality of the word fuck. And it is so amazing. Like you guys find it and watch it. It's
Oh
genius.
my
It's so
gosh.
funny. But anyway,
It might be the most multidimensional word.
so much. I mean, he shows all the uses, and
Yeah.
it's just so funny. So again, in this cancel culture, as we look at we look at the arena, it's like we have this mass coliseum, right, with the
Yes.
lions, and we send people to the wolves to be
Yep.
annihilated. Just remember, it's all
Especially women, especially women. What happens to women in the cancel culture would never happen to
women.
men the way it does. It's hard to watch. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. Yes, very true. Remember that it's all perspective, and remember that you may not be seeing what you think that you're seeing. And so at the end of the day, when you put your head down on the pillow, or when you drop the body, or like me, I'm taking my body with me when I transmigrate my body, it has to be your life that you lived. I
Yeah.
can't say, oh, I didn't fulfill myself because Moira said,
Yeah.
that the answer was under the fifth rock in North Carolina under her
Right.
veranda. It's like, it's just really common intelligent. And how about some very good sort of grandma adages? Keep your hands to yourself, and the golden rule: treat people how
Yes.
you would like to be treated. Like those two things, and an awareness, you're like already light years beyond.
Yeah.
And it's just the other thing is just to understand how loved, how celebrated, and how precious you are. Every single person listening to these words, exactly as you are right now.
Yes. Worthy
Right
beyond
now.
measure. Worthy beyond measure.
I love that. Yeah. Worthy beyond measures. It doesn't matter. It's like, this is all for your evolution. We're in the world
Yeah.
of form. And you've mentioned ego a couple times, and I want to make a little refinement on that from my
Yeah.
perspective. We all have an ego. If we didn't have an ego, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you on this podcast
Right.
right now. I would
Yes.
be a light form in another realm. So we're in the land of forms. We are here to create. And remember that making art with sacred intention is the most powerful thing you can do for humanity.
Yes.
And some of what I'm going to be sharing in the coming, times is definitely how, as artists, we can infuse our work, our songs, our dance, our sculpture, our painting with this vibration of unity, of oneness. And that, my friends, will shift the entire multiverse.
Yes, 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 yes. I can feel that in my bones. I just got the shivers, which is the coolest. Oh my gosh, Julie, thank you for opening up your heart and your mind and your energy and just being here and having this beautiful conversation. I feel like my mind has expanded just tenfold, and I have all these questions and thoughts now. So that's a beautiful thing, when you start to think about things differently, when you start to just get beyond, what we've been living in. So thank you for that gift.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. And I just want to share. So I have two ways people can align with my frequency
Yes.
more deeply.
Yes.
So the first one is Water Tiger, which I've mentioned. So follow me on Instagram at SriMati. And you can subscribe. It's a monthly subscription. I give a planetary update and answer your questions once a month.
Love that.
And in the portal now, there's over 50 techniques that are experiential guided meditations that you can stream at will to fall more deeply in love with yourself. And there's a
Mm,
huge range of things. So that's one thing. The second thing is that I am the founder and creator of a plant-based artisanal cheese collection. It's called
yes.
SriMu, SRIMU, do life, not cheese. And SriMu is an invitation. It is universal. It's paleo, keto, gluten-free, dairy-free, plant-rich, raw. It is really an extraordinary experience. It is primarily home subscription. So go to my site, check out the offerings, and understand that this is a global mission of awakening that is happening through a vehicle of food.
I love that. I'm getting ready to hop on and subscribe to all of it.
All
Thank you.
right,
And
my
we will
dear.
keep, yes, we'll keep everything in the show notes so it's super easily accessible for all of my listeners. And Julie, thanks again. It's been such a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much, Moira. Same feeling. Thank you for everything you're doing and for being here on the planet, sharing your light and your heart and your awareness.